In a world where everyone talks, the wisest people are the ones who know when to stay silent. But my friends, as we step into 2026, the world is louder than ever. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants attention. But everyone wants to know everything about everyone. But real strength, real maturity, real spiritual grounding, comes from understanding that not everything in your heart must be spoken out loud. Some things must remain sacred. Some things must remain private. Some things must be held close, not out of fear but out of wisdom. Let me share with you 8 things you should never share with anyone in 2026. Not because the world is bad, but because your peace is precious. There is a quiet power in keeping your plans to yourself. A power most people never discover because they speak too soon. We live in a world where everyone is eager to announce what they are going to do. They want applause before effort. They want validation before discipline. But dreams are not built on public approval. They are built in silence, with patience, humility, and unwavering commitment. A seed doesn't shout while it grows, it just grows. And when the time is right, the world sees the tree. In the same way, your plans don't need an audience, they need nourishment. The moment you share a plan too early, something subtle happens. People begin to comment, judge, question, or even discourage. And those words, sometimes soft, sometimes sarcastic, can weaken your focus. Not because their opinion matters, but because human minds are sensitive. Even a small doubt planted by someone else can grow into hesitation within you. But when you work quietly, the only voice you hear is your own. And the guidance you seek comes from God, not from random noise around you. Silence protects your clarity. There's a story about a young man who wanted to start a small business. Excited, he told his friends and family about his idea. Instead of encouragement, he received fear. It's risky. What if you fail? Do you even know how hard this is? Maybe stick to something safer. One by one, their comments became stones placed over his enthusiasm. He began doubting himself, not because he wasn't capable, but because he opened the door too early. He let others speak into a dream they were never meant to carry. Months passed, and he discovered someone else quietly launched the exact idea he had. That day he realized the truth. Silence isn't secrecy. Silence is protection. When you keep your plans private, you create a sacred space around them. Your energy stays focused. Your mind stays steady. Your heart stays brave. You work not for applause, but for purpose. You work not for recognition, but for fulfillment. You work not to impress the world, but to become the person God designed you to be. And this internal alignment is more powerful than any public announcement. People often share their plans because they want motivation. But external motivation fades quickly. The same people who cheer today may question you tomorrow. And if your confidence depends on their approval, you will always feel weak. True motivation comes from within. From knowing why you started, what you seek, and who you want to become. Let your why push you, not the world. There's also a spiritual reason for silence. When God is preparing something big in your life, He often wraps it in stillness. He keeps it hidden because growth needs protection. Just as a mother protects her unborn child, life protects your dreams while they are still developing. Imagine if the child were exposed too early, it wouldn't survive. Similarly, revealing your plans before they are fully formed leaves them vulnerable to criticism, envy, doubt, or interference. Not everyone who listens wants you to succeed. Some want information, not inspiration. Some want updates, not upliftment. When you understand this, you learn to guard your journey. While working silently doesn't mean working alone. It means choosing wisely whom you confide in. People who genuinely support you, guide you, and pray for you. These are few. These are rare. Most people talk to respond. Only a handful listen to uplift. Share with them if needed, but even then, share thoughtfully. The world doesn't deserve access to every detail of your next move. And there is beauty in surprising people with results. Have you noticed that silence creates impact? When you appear with something accomplished, people pay attention. Not because you boasted, but because you acted. not because you tried to impress, but because you committed. The world respects outcomes more than intentions. So let your work speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your perseverance speak. Let your transformation speak. In 2026, make a promise to yourself. Let your actions be louder than your announcements. Let your focus be stronger than your desire for validation. Let your discipline be greater than your need for attention. When you operate this way, something extraordinary happens. You grow peacefully, powerfully, and authentically. You rise without noise. You succeed without spectacle. You evolve without explanation. And when the right moment comes, the world will see the tree that grew from a seed you quietly protected. You won't have to say a word. Your success will speak to your silence. There is a quiet dignity in keeping parts of your personal life private, a dignity that is slowly disappearing in a world where everyone feels pressure to share everything. We live in times where people post their meals, their moods, their relationships, their arguments, their victories, and their wounds. Yet the more people share, the less peace they seem to have, because the truth is simple. What is overly exposed loses its value, and what is sacred remains sacred only when prot. CTDD. Your personal life is not a public performance. It is the space where your soul breathes, where your emotions heal, where your heart processes what the world will never understand. When you share too much of it, you give people access to pieces of you they haven't earned, and people who have not earned access rarely treat it with respect. They interpret, judge, assume, misquote, misrepresent, not because they are evil, but because they are human. And humans see your life not as it is, but as their mind paints it. There are aspects of your life that deserve silence: your struggles, your healing, your relationships, your family matters, your past wounds, your spiritual journey. These are not meant for the world to comment on. These are meant for you to grow through. When you share personal matters casually, you unknowingly open the door for opinions you never asked for. Someone may take your vulnerability lightly. Another may twist your words. Someone else may share it with others without your permission. And suddenly, something that required protection becomes scattered in careless hands. .br. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is self-respect. It is knowing that every part of you is not up for consumption. It is knowing that your emotions are not entertainment. It is knowing that your relationships are not auditions. The happiest people are not the ones who have the most attention. They are the ones who have the most peace. And peace blooms where boundaries exist. Think of a home. You don't leave your doors open for strangers to walk in. Not because the strangers are bad, but because the home is yours. Your personal life is that home. When you open your emotional doors to everyone, you allow people to walk in with their muddy shoes, leaving footprints on your peace. The fewer people you allow inside, the cleaner your emotional space remains. There was a woman who shared every argument she had with her partner on social media. At first, people reacted with sympathy. Later, with annoyance, eventually with judgment. The more she shared, the less people respected the relationship. What could have been resolved quietly turned into a public drama. One evening she sat with her grandmother, who asked her gently, "My child, why do you let the world sit at your dining table? Some meals are meant to be shared only with those who cooked them." And in that moment she realized that not every emotion deserved an audience. The more sacred your life becomes, the more silent it becomes. People often assume that closeness means access, but real closeness is not measured by how much you share. It is measured by how deeply someone understands what you don't say. Sometimes silence reveals more truth than words ever could. When you guard your personal life, you protect not just yourself, but the people you love. Not every conflict in your family is the world's concern. Not every insecurity needs listeners. Not every misunderstanding needs spectators. Some things heal faster when they stay inside the circle of trust. When too many voices enter a delicate situation, clarity fades and confusion grows. There is also a spiritual aspect to privacy. God often works in the quiet corners of your life. He teaches, molds, purifies, and strengthens you in moments only you can feel. When you expose those sacred moments to public scrutiny, they lose their depth. Not everyone carries the wisdom to understand the journey God has placed you on. Some will criticize what they cannot comprehend. Some will mock what they have never experienced. Some will question what God has confirmed for you. Create a personal sanctuary, a space in your heart that belongs only to you, your faith, and the people truly closest to you. A place free from gossip, comparison, and expectation. A place where your emotions can breathe without judgment. A place where healing becomes possible because the world is not watching. As you move through 2026, remind yourself gently, what is personal must remain personal. What is sacred must remain protected, and what is precious must remain guarded. You owe no one your entire story. You owe no one your emotional diary. Share wisely, share intentionally. Share only with those who add strength to your spirit, not weight to your heart. Because the most peaceful life is not the one the world knows everything about. It is the one whose beauty is felt but never fully seen. There is a purity in doing good quietly. A purity that is slowly fading in a world obsessed with being seen. Today, people record their charity, announce their kindness, and publicize their generosity as if goodness needs an audience to be real. But true goodness was never meant to be displayed. It was meant to be lived. Not every noble act needs a witness. Not every compassionate moment needs a camera. Some of the most beautiful deeds in the world were done in the shadows, not the spotlight. When you do good and immediately feel the urge to tell others, pause for a moment and ask yourself why. Is it gratitude driving you or your ego? Is it love for humanity or hunger for recognition? Real kindness doesn't ask to be noticed. It doesn't ask for likes, applause, or admiration. It simply asks to be done. And when it's done sincerely, God sees it, and that is enough. Imagine a candle lighting another candle. It spreads light without calling attention to itself. It doesn't ask for credit. It just gives what it has. This is what pure kindness looks like. On the other hand, when someone does a good deed and immediately announces it, the intention becomes diluted. It shifts from compassion to validation, from service to self-promotion. And intention matters. In fact, intention is everything. You may have noticed that when you do something good privately, the joy feels deeper. It warms your heart in a quiet way. But when you broadcast it, the joy is replaced by self-consciousness. You start thinking about who saw it, who reacted, who praised you. The act becomes less about the person you helped and more about the image you project. It's subtle, but it changes everything. There's a profound story often told in spiritual circles. A man used to leave food outside a poor woman's door every morning. He never revealed himself. He never waited to be thanked. He simply helped. One day he moved to another village. The poor woman looked outside, didn't find the food, and sat down heartbroken. A neighbor who had always watched the man's routine stepped in and began placing food at her door. But he didn't hide. He knocked each day, waiting for gratitude, waiting for appreciation. And soon, she stopped opening the door, not because she was ungrateful, but because the purity of the act had changed. What was once a blessing had become a burden. When kindness becomes a performance, the receiver feels it. They sense the difference between help and display. They can feel when someone is giving out of love and when someone is giving out of ego. And the truth is, the world already has too much noise. What it needs is quiet goodness. Good deeds are like perfume. The fragrance spreads naturally. It doesn't need to be announced. You don't have to prove you're a good person. Your actions will do that for you, even when no one is watching. In fact, the greatest transformations in life happen when no one is watching. The deepest prayers are whispered in silence. The greatest sacrifices are made anonymously. The most meaningful kindness is done without evidence. When you serve without expecting acknowledgement, something powerful shifts inside you. You begin to understand humility. You begin to understand grace. You begin to understand the joy of giving for the sake of giving. You begin to understand that goodness is not a transaction. It's a way of life. On a spiritual level, doing good quietly is a reminder that the world is not your audience, God is. People may forget what you did. They may misinterpret your intentions. They may never acknowledge the love you poured into someone's life. But God sees the unseen. God hears the unspoken. God rewards the unnoticed. And strangely, the blessings that come from silent kindness are far greater than those that come from public gestures. When you help someone quietly, life helps you quietly. You feel protected in ways you can't explain. Doors open without effort. Strength appears during your weakest moments. Peace enters your life in unexpected ways. This is not magic. This is the invisible return of invisible kindness. So, as you walk into 2026, carry this wisdom in your heart. Let your goodness be felt, not flaunted. Let your kindness be sincere, not strategic. Let your actions be pure, not performative. Serve without seeking attention. Love without seeking credit. Give without keeping score. Because the world doesn't need to know the good you're doing. The people you help may never know it was you. But God knows, and that is more than enough. There is a delicate vulnerability within each of us, a softness we don't always show, a quiet place where our fears, insecurities, and struggles live. And while it is natural to seek comfort, understanding, or support, not everyone in this world is meant to hold your fragile truths. Not everyone has the heart to handle your wounds with gentleness. Not everyone listens with the intention to help. Some listen to judge, some listen to gossip. Some listen just to feed their own curiosity, and sharing your weaknesses with such people doesn't heal you, it harms you. But life teaches you this the hard way. You open your heart to someone, thinking they will understand, only to find your pain used against you in a moment you least expected. You speak your fears, hoping to feel lighter, and instead walk away feeling misinterpreted, exposed, or dismissed. You try to trust, but trust placed in the wrong hands becomes a lesson, not comfort. Weakness is not something to be ashamed of. Every human being carries doubts, wounds, and moments of weakness. But your struggles deserve a safe space, not a public one. They deserve a heart that listens without judgment, a mind that reflects wisdom, and a soul that truly cares. And those hearts, those minds, those souls are rare. Imagine a young man going through a difficult time, perhaps financial pressure, heartbreak, family conflict, or personal confusion. Feeling overwhelmed, he begins sharing his emotions with anyone who seems available. One person gives careless advice, another pretends to care but quietly judges him. Someone else shares his story with others, turning his private pain into a social conversation. Days later, he hears his own struggles repeated inaccurately by someone he barely knows. He feels betrayed, not because people are cruel, but because he gave the wrong people access to the most vulnerable parts of his life. Your weaknesses are like soft clay. They can be shaped, but they can also be damaged. In the wrong hands, they become impressions that never leave. In the right hands, they become sculptures of growth and strength. Sharing your weaknesses with everyone makes you emotionally exposed. It drains your energy, it makes your wounds deeper, and it invites voices that confuse you instead of guide you. But when you share those same feelings with the right person, someone grounded, compassionate, wise, and trustworthy, healing begins. Sometimes that person is a mentor, sometimes a spiritual guide, sometimes a close friend who truly understands you, and sometimes that person is God alone. There is a quiet wisdom in learning to sit with your emotions before sharing them. Not every hurt needs to be spoken the moment it arises. Not every doubt needs an audience. Not every tear needs witnesses. Sometimes sitting alone with your feelings brings clarity that talking to the wrong people never will. Sometimes the silence becomes your teacher. The truth is, most people listen with their minds, not their hearts. They filter your words through their own fears, biases, insecurities, and experiences. And so what you share gets reshaped in ways you never intended. That is why emotional boundaries are essential. They are not walls to keep people out. They are filters to let the right people in. Weakness shared with someone unwise becomes confusion. Weakness shared with someone careless becomes gossip. Weakness shared with someone negative becomes discouragement. Weakness shared with someone Jealous becomes a weapon, but weakness shared with someone loving becomes healing. Many of the strongest people you know are not strong because they never struggle. They are strong because they learned whom to trust with their struggles. They learned that their vulnerability is precious. They learned that not every listener is a safe listener. They learned that peace grows in protected spaces. There is also a spiritual dimension to this. Sometimes, when life feels heavy, the best place to take your weaknesses is prayer. When you sit quietly and speak your truth to God, without fear, without pressure, without judgment, something inside you begins to soften. Strength slowly returns. Confusion begins to clear. Your heart feels held by something greater than human understanding. There is no betrayal, no misinterpretation, just a loving presence that listens fully and heals gently. The older you get, the more you realize that wisdom is not just about what you say, it's about whom you say it to. Your weaknesses are not meant for the crowd, they are meant for the trusted few. And sometimes they are meant only for you and God. So as you move through 2026, remember this: you are allowed to have weaknesses. You are allowed to feel lost. You are allowed to struggle. But you are not required to expose those tender parts of your soul to everyone. Protect them, guard them, share them only where love, wisdom, and safety exists. Br. Because when your vulnerability is respected, you grow. When it is protected, you heal. And when it is shared wisely, you rise stronger than ever before. There is something incredibly delicate about a dream. In the beginning, it is just a whisper inside your heart, a quiet spark, a small flame easily influenced by the wind around you. And while it grows, it needs warmth, protection, and the right environment. But when you share your goals with negative people, you expose that fragile flame to a storm of doubt, discouragement, and disbelief. And sometimes all it takes is one comment from someone with a small mind to shrink a big vision. People often underestimate the damage a single negative voice can do. You may walk into a room full of hope and walk out feeling foolish because one person laughed at your ambition, questioned your ability, or dismissed your dream as unrealistic. You begin doubting yourself, not because the dream is impossible, but because you allowed negativity to pollute your belief system. Even the strongest plants cannot survive toxic soil, and even the strongest minds can be shaken by toxic people. Think about how many ideas died before they ever took their first breath. How many dreams were abandoned because someone said, "Who do you think you are?" Or "People like you don't succeed," or "That's too big for you." There are countless people today living a smaller version of their life simply because they believed a negative voice that should have never been invited into their sacred space. You must understand something very clearly. People don't see your dream the way you see it. They don't carry the purpose you carry. They don't feel the fire you feel. They don't hear the calling that whispers inside your soul at 2 a.m. They don't share your vision because the vision was given to you, not to them. Expecting them to understand is like expecting someone to appreciate a painting they haven't even seen. Negative people are not always loud. Some discourage you quietly, through a raised eyebrow or a sarcastic smile. Some dismiss your dreams with soft but poisonous words like, "Be realistic," or "Don't aim too high," or "People like us don't get opportunities like that." And the danger is that they often speak with confidence, making their doubts sound like wisdom. But wisdom does not discourage. Wisdom guides. Wisdom uplifts. Wisdom strengthens. Negative people do none of these. Their words come from fear, insecurity, or jealousy, not from insight. And if you allow their discouragement to enter your heart, it will drain your energy, weaken your focus, and slow your progress. Remember this. A person who has never walked the path you want to walk cannot advise you about the journey. A person who has never built anything of significance cannot understand your hunger to build. A person who has settled for comfort will never understand your willingness to embrace challenge. People speak from the limits of their own experience, and if their life is small, their advice will also be small. Surrounding yourself with negative people is like breathing in polluted air. It slowly damages your spirit without you even realizing it. But surrounding yourself with believers, encouragers, and growth minded people is like breathing fresh oxygen. It strengthens you, energizes you, and helps you rise. There is a story of a young woman who wanted to become an entrepreneur. She shared her dream with a few friends. One said IT was risky. Another said she lacked the talent. Someone else laughed and told her she would fail. Their words stayed with her like shadows, making her second guess every step. Months later, she met a mentor who listened quietly and simply said, "Why not you?" That one sentence, spoken with belief instead of fear, changed everything. She realized she had been listening to the wrong voices. Her dream didn't need the world's approval. It only needed her commitment. Your dreams require the same. They need nurturing, faith, focus, and positivity. They need time and effort. But most importantly, they need protection from negativity. Not everyone who smiles at you supports you. Not everyone who listens to your plans wants you to succeed. Some people secretly hope you fail because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. If you share your goals with such people, you give them the power to poison your path. So as you move through 2026, choose wisely. Share your dreams only with those who uplift you, with those who pray for you, with those who celebrate your progress, not envy it, with those who see your potential, not your limitations. And sometimes share your dreams with no one at all. Sometimes silence is the greatest protection for a vision still growing. Because the truth is simple, your dream is sacred. Treat it that way. Guard it from negativity, feed it with faith. Comfortable. Not everyone knows how to celebrate others genuinely. When you reveal your financial details, you also unknowingly open the door to judgment. If you struggle financially, people judge your decisions. If you succeed financially, people judge your motives. If you buy something nice, they label you extravagant. If you live modestly, they call you stingy. No matter what you do, people will interpret your finances through their own insecurities and biases. And this is why silence is precious. Your financial journey is personal. It's between you, your family, your discipline, and your God. You don't owe anyone explanations for what you earn, what you save, or how you spend. Your progress is not a public report. Your sacrifices are not for display. Your goals are not meant for approval. You see, when people don't know your income, they treat you like a person. But when they know your numbers, they treat you like a resource. Some may seek favors, others may expect loans. Some may feel entitled to your generosity, and some may quietly resent your success. None of this supports your peace of mind. Money should never become the reason relationships get complicated. And nothing complicates relationships faster than mixing money with trust, comparisons, or expectations. In many spiritual traditions, financial modesty is taught as a form of wisdom. Not modesty in lifestyle, but modesty in disclosure. Even if God blesses you in abundance, He doesn't ask you to broadcast it. He asks you to use it with humility and gratitude. Blessings grow in silence, not in showmanship. There is also another side to this truth. Your struggles should not be shared with everyone either. If you are going through a financial hardship, sharing it widely will only invite pity, gossip, or unsolicited advice. Everyone has an opinion about how you should manage money, but not everyone has the wisdom to guide you well. And certainly, not everyone has the compassion to support you without judging you. Speak about your finances only with people who truly matter. Your family, a trusted advisor, or a spiritual guide if needed. These are the people who want your growth, not your details. They listen to understand, not to compare. When you keep your financial life private, you protect not just your money, but your peace. You shield yourself from envy. You protect your relationships from unnecessary tension. You avoid the weight of other people's expectations, and you maintain the joy of progressing quietly, without the pressure of proving anything to anyone. You also avoid the trap of pride. The moment money becomes the basis of your self-worth, you lose your grounding. But when your finances remain private, your identity remains rooted in who you are, not what you possess. And that is a far stronger foundation. Rabia, remember this. Money is a tool, not a trophy. A blessing, not a burden. A responsibility, not a reason to show off. When handled with humility and privacy, it can serve you well. When exposed carelessly, it can become a source of pain. As you walk through 2026, let your blessings stay between you and God. Let your progress remain quietly noticed only by those who truly care. Let your financial journey remain dignified, humble, and protected, because the less the world knows about your finances, the more peacefully you will live. Conflict has a way of stirring emotions inside us that we don't always know how to manage. Anger rises, pride gets triggered, the urge to defend ourselves becomes overwhelming, and often in those heated moments, we feel compelled to announce our next move, what we'll do, how we'll react, how we'll withdraw, or how we'll respond. But sharing your strategy during conflict is like revealing your vulnerabilities to someone who may not be ready to honor them. Silence in conflict is not weakness, it is wisdom. A wisdom that protects your dignity, your peace, and your clarity. When emotions run high, words lose their balance. We say things we don't mean. We express thoughts that are not fully formed. We make promises or threats we later regret. And the more we speak in that emotional state, the more we create pathways for misunderstandings, escalation, or manipulation. This is why announcing your next move, especially when hurt, is dangerous. You expose your heart while it is trembling. You reveal your strategy before you even understand it yourself. There was a young woman who, whenever she argued with someone, would immediately say things like, "Fine, I'll stop talking to you," or "I'll leave," or "Next time I won't help you." She thought she was protecting herself by announcing boundaries. But what she didn't realize was that she was showing the other person exactly how to hurt her, how to provoke her, how to make her lose control. The moment she declared her next step, she gave away her strength. She gave away her mystery. She gave away her ability to respond from a place of calmness instead of chaos. When you keep your next move private during conflict, you give yourself space to breathe. You give yourself the opportunity to reflect, to calm down, and to think clearly. Decisions made in anger are rarely wise. Words spoken in frustration are rarely true. And actions taken in emotional turbulence are rarely aligned with who you really want to be. Silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. It is a pause that allows wisdom to enter the room. It is the space where emotions settle and perspective grows. When you stop explaining yourself to someone who is not ready to understand you, you protect your energy. When you stop reacting to provocation, you reclaim power. When you stop sharing your next move, you stop giving people control over how you feel. Some people don't argue to find a solution. They argue to win. They seek information they can use to push your buttons or weaken your stance. If you tell such people your next move, they will strategically respond, not sincerely. But when you hold your cards close, you make it clear that your peace is not up for negotiation. There is a profound strength in quietly observing, in listening more than you speak, in allowing the other person to reveal who they truly are while you remain grounded. The one who speaks the loudest is not the strongest. The one who stays centered when others lose control is the one who holds real power. This does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means understanding them before expressing them. It means responding, not reacting. It means walking away to think, not walking away to punish. When you move silently, you remove the fuel that keeps the fire burning. You allow the conflict to lose intensity, and often you realize that the issue was not worth an emotional explosion in the first place. There is also a spiritual dimension to this silence. When you stop telling people your next move, you start telling God instead. You hand over your confusion, your hurt, your frustration, your uncertainty to a higher intelligence. You say, "Guide me" instead of "watch me." And from that surrender, clarity emerges. Perhaps you will choose forgiveness, perhaps space, perhaps correction, perhaps closure. But whatever you choose will come from calmness, not chaos. When you reveal your next move too early, you tie yourself to that decision, even if later you realize it was not the right one. But when you keep it private, you remain free. Free to change your mind, free to heal differently, free to grow beyond the moment. Conflict does not define you. Your reaction does. And your reaction becomes stronger, wiser, and more graceful when you learn the art of moving quietly. Let others assume. Let others speak. Let others try to provoke. Your silence will say more than your explanation ever could. So, as you move through 2026, choose dignity over drama. Choose understanding over impulse. Choose peace over pride. And above all, choose silence as your shield when your emotions are loud. Because your next move does not need to be seen. It needs to be wise. In the end, my friends, life is not asking you to be loud. Life is asking you to be clear. Clear in your purpose. Clear in your heart. Clear in your walk with God. The world may tempt you to reveal everything, explain everything, defend everything, but remember this truth: what is protected grows, what is honored strengthens, and what is surrendered to God becomes unstoppable. Do not fear silence, do not fear privacy, do not fear moving quietly. The seed does its greatest work underground, hidden from the world, yet destined to rise toward the sun. In the same way, your growth may be unseen today, but God sees it. Your discipline may be unnotic, but God honors it. Your sacrifices may be invisible, but God remembers them. Dr. So step into your future with calm confidence. Speak less, trust more. Walk with humility, move with purpose, and hold close the parts of your life that God is still shaping. Because every blessing that is meant for you will arrive at the perfect time, in the perfect way, by the perfect wisdom of the one who knows your heart completely. And as you move forward, always remember this: what God prepares in private will shine in public when the time is right. But carry that truth with you. Be or live in gratitude, but move with faith. And let your life become the quiet miracle that inspires others to rise.